Today on the Playbook Podcast, Donald Trump is hosting Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese at the White House. But all the attention is going to be on other big world affairs, Gaza, Ukraine, and Latin America. And it's day 20 of the government shutdown. Is Donald Trump ever going to end this thing? Hello, I'm Jack Blanchard.
And I'm Dasha Burns. It is Monday, October 20th.
And this is the Playbook Podcast. Dasha, have you had a lovely weekend?
I actually had a very lovely weekend. I did basically nothing.
Yes.
I read my book.
Oh my goodness, a book.
I went on walks with my husband. A book that has nothing to do with the news, by the way.
I'm so impressed.
Total fiction. It was a dream. We're in countdown mode till we get our puppy 2 weekends from now. So
No, you're kidding.
So we're enjoying our freedom while we can.
Playbook puppy. This is very exciting news. Oh my goodness. This puppy is clearly going to feature in the newsletter every day. I can already tell.
I'm going to have we won't need a kicker anymore. I'm just going to have stories to end with every day.
Well, I spent Sunday at a fall festival, my first ever fall festival at the local elementary school. It was quite something. I needed a little lie down afterwards, but it was pretty good fun. Let's talk about politics. Anthony Albanese, it's his first trip to the White House since Donald Trump returned as president. But here's the thing, right? It's a big deal for the Australian PM to be here. We'll see the usual setup this morning when they're in the Oval Office together. But it's kind of awkward because everyone wants to talk about foreign affairs today, but they don't really want to talk about Australia at all. There's so much going on in the foreign affairs world because of the way Donald Trump has inserted himself into so many big stories. And those are the things he's going to get asked about today. And those are the things that people are going to be talking about today. I want to kick off with Ukraine because yesterday we learned what actually happened in the Trump-Zelenskyy meeting on Friday, and it is jaw-dropping stuff. You know, the sort of readout straight afterwards on Friday were kind of bland, like these things always are. There was no obvious sign at that point that the whole thing had blown up.
Let's remember when you and I talked last week, this was a high stakes meeting that we were talking about. I mean, this was Zelenskyy going in to ask the president for tomahawks, for additional weapons to be able to strike further into Russia. Trump had been teasing that he was open to it, that he was going to put more pressure on Putin. So Zelenskyy was going in there very hopeful.
The Financial Times, credit to them, were the first ones to report this yesterday. Basically, it didn't go well at all. The reporting is described in the FT as a shouting match with Trump, quote, cursing all the time. And basically what seems to have happened is that Donald Trump spoke to Vladimir Putin on Thursday and did one of those famous 180s that Donald Trump keeps doing on this issue and started repeating a lot of Vladimir Putin's points to Zelenskyy, putting quite a lot of pressure on Zelenskyy to try and get this thing over the line. And this is how Trump gets his deals over the line. And it seems like Zelenskyy did not agree to sign away half of Ukraine to Russia. And so you got a very angry president of the United States on the call at that point. We haven't had this confirmed by the White House, to be clear, but there are, several news outlets now reporting parts of this, and it sounds not good.
At least the contrast with February is that this happened behind the cameras.
Right.
But the stakes, I would argue, are even higher now, especially for President Trump, who wants to use the momentum that he feels he has from the Middle East and bring it into Ukraine. And so I think that's why you saw such a forceful approach from him. But he said many times on that Middle East trip, I thought that Russia-Ukraine was going to be the easiest. It's turned out to be the hardest. And it doesn't seem like it has gotten any easier, just despite everything else happening around the world.
It's reported that Trump was suggesting Ukraine should give away more of its territory to Russia than Russia has even claimed on the call, and that he's backtracked on that. Last night, Trump was asked about this, and he was saying on the issue of the Donbass, one of the most contested regions, let's leave it the way it is. It's cut up right now. Russia's got 78% of it. Let's leave it that way. Well, it wasn't very long ago that Trump was saying that Ukraine could go and win back all of its old land.
The whiplash on this is pretty extraordinary, and it's significant that it's happening really close to the conversations that he's having with Vladimir Putin. One can only assume what those conversations might sound like, and seeing the results, right? When, just hours, days before that call with Putin, President Trump not only in terms of like the policy that he was putting out, but also the tone and in every kind of way, seemed like he was really with Ukraine on this, and then a switch flipped.
And it was fascinating to see Zelensky went straight out from that meeting with Trump, went and got on the phone with basically all the leaders of Europe. And you can only imagine now, knowing how the meeting with Trump went, what that call was like. Donald Tusk used to be one of the leaders of the EU, on X last night, saying none of us should put pressure on Zelensky when it comes to territorial concessions. We should put all the pressure on Russia to stop its aggression, fighting against appeasement. And I think European leaders and Zelensky will be looking now at that Trump-Putin summit that we're now expecting in a couple of weeks to happen in Hungary with real trepidation, because as you say, when Putin gets in Trump's ear, it doesn't tend to go well for Europe.
Well, and let's remember, we actually reported, I scooped back in September that Budapest was going to be the site of one of these meetings. Back then, the idea inside the White House was that it would be the site of a trilateral meeting between Putin, Trump, and Zelensky. It looks like it's just going to be a bilateral meeting again. And what's not been made clear by the White House is what the goals are going into this. Let's remember that the Alaska summit between Trump and Putin, the expectations were played way down. Hey, it's just progress to see these two leaders sitting down together and having this conversation. Okay, what now?
We better talk about Gaza as well, because the hostilities, we've all seen what happened over the weekend, broke out again, killing of 2 IDF soldiers. Israel started shelling again. That seems to have stopped now. There were also horrific videos coming out of the West Bank yesterday of settlers attacking Palestinians there, or that's what they seem to show. Donald Trump was asked about this on the plane last night, Dasha. He said the ceasefire holds. That was his line. That's what he insists. And I heard Vance talking about it yesterday. He was kind of like, I'm paraphrasing, but like, these things happen and when you're trying to get to a peace. But it feels so fragile and so tempestuous over there.
And it seems like it's something that's going to need constant, heavy involvement from President Trump and those
Right.
in his administration. I mean, Witkoff and Kushner can't let their foot off the gas here at all. And Trump, of course, is very black and white when it comes to a lot of this stuff. I mean, you heard him tell me on the plane, the war is over, period. That has not necessarily gone well for presidents in the past. Remember the mission accomplished moment, right? There's a reason why there's often a lot of caveats and a lot of couching and slow rolling of a peace process, because especially in a region like the Middle East and between Russia and Ukraine, these are complicated conflicts, complicated relationships, and it's not it's not an easy solve.
Donald Trump's not really a caveats kind of guy. He likes to deal in primary colors, right? Kushner and Witkoff were due into Israel early this morning. The reports that J.D. Vance might be going out tomorrow, he's not confirmed that yet, but he said it's possible, it's in the mix. So you can see the administration, turning its attention again and throwing energy at that. But it's just one other major, global conflict that's taking up a lot of White House sort of brain space. And it's not the only one, because we need to increasingly be paying attention, Dasha, to what's happening between the US and countries in Latin America. There's several big flashpoints happening there. The latest with Colombia. Initially, of course, the US was blowing up Venezuelan ships in the Caribbean, saying that they were drug dealing ships. Now it appears a Colombian vessel has been hit, and President Trump finds himself in a war of words with the leader of Colombia as well, and in fact says that they're going to impose new tariffs on Colombia today, stopping any aid payments to Colombia. And so it's just like almost like opening up yet another front on the foreign affairs front for Donald Trump to focus on.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see if he tries to really bring his base along here and if the base will go along, because we've already seen characters like Marjorie Taylor Greene on the Hill and others in the Trump base start to cry foul on this idea that this is what America First should look like, when there is so much happening on American soil that people are concerned about, and promises that the president made that they want to see more action on. And we've seen so many of the headlines coming out of the White House lately amid a government shutdown. Let's remember, we'll get into that a little bit, but that is still happening. Much of the focus from the administration seems to be foreign policy. Now they'll say they can walk and chew gum at the same time, but no doubt for the hardcore MAGA folks and the Steve Bannons of the world that want to see us much more focused internally, this might not sit well with them for much longer.
Now, walking into all of that is the Aussie PM today, wanting to talk about trade tariffs. He's got a rare earths mineral deal he wants to cut with America. And you know that's the sort of thing Donald Trump's interested in. We've seen that, right, with Ukraine already. So it seems like Albanese might have something to play here. He wants metal tariffs down on Australian imports.
Right, and of course, China, right? And there's a huge conversation that the two leaders can have about how to handle what's going on in that part of the world when it comes to China, Taiwan, and a whole other front that we can dig into probably tomorrow.
Absolutely. And I mean, the US has embroiled itself into a big defense pact with Australia and actually the UK called AUKUS. It's a huge multi-decade, multi-billion dollar contract stretching far into the future, which is essentially about containing China in the South China Sea. That contract has been put under review by Donald Trump's Pentagon, much to the nervousness of the Aussies. And I'm sure Albanese will want to talk about that today. The problem for him is last time anyone brought this up with Donald Trump, I remember watching the press conference. Keir Starmer, the British PM, was there much earlier in the year, and someone asked about AUKUS, and Donald Trump's response was, "What's that?" Which is not a ringing endorsement of this massive Pentagon project. Presumably, he's been better briefed or will have been for this meeting. But it's up in the air whether this thing even happens in a Trump 2.0 world, and so that will definitely be something the Aussies want to talk about today.
Absolutely.
I mean, we should say, Dasha, we mentioned China. We're talking about how much foreign affairs stuff Donald Trump is doing. He's going to Asia at the end of the week for another massive trip, right? He's seeing President Xi, we think, in Korea at some point in the next, either over the weekend or early next week. He's got
Yeah,
summits.
and then potentially hopping on a plane to Budapest right after, or like going
Why not see
from
Putin and Xi in the same week? I
right.
mean, it's amazing, isn't it? He's also, I think he's going to Japan and Malaysia. There was even a CNN report, which I just cannot believe is true, that they might try and crowbar in a summit with Kim Jong-un while he's in Asia. Why not see that every, old school axis of
Oh
evil leader?
my
I mean,
word. Yeah.
that seems too far-fetched even for Trump. But I mean,
I'm scared for all of our sleep schedules, especially our colleagues who are going to be on on those
on
trips.
those trips, yeah,
I'm retired from that for a beat.
glad to hear it.
But I know who's not going to be tired. It's President Trump.
Yeah.
He's got the battery going.
What he doesn't seem massively focused on is trying to end this government shutdown here in DC. We're on to day 20 today. Nothing much is happening. The Senate keeps voting. We all know the outcome. The House still isn't coming back. Chuck Schumer and John Thune aren't even really talking with each other.
Everyone
as
in
we
politics
understand
thinks
it.
this is working for them,
Yeah,
except the actual people.
That's except for the poor people who are working hard for America and not getting paid for it every single day, or the poor people sat at home wishing they could do their jobs and not getting paid. I still think my hunch, and it's just a gut feeling, is that at some point Donald Trump ends this as the only real power player in the whole of Washington. Don't forget, Dasha, we're now less than 2 weeks before open enrollment begins on these ACA credits, and people will start to get their renewal through, and they will see just how much their ACA premium is going up. And at that point, I feel like the pressure is going to start to change, the dynamics are going to start changing. And I wonder if Donald Trump thinks enough is enough at that point.
Yeah, I just have operatives on both sides being like, well, this is great for the Democrats. Republicans are losing. And then Republicans saying, well, this is great for the Republicans. The Democrats are losing. This is an absolute political Rorschach test. It's going to take some tangible impact and likely President Trump himself stepping in to bring this thing to an end.
We shall see. I feel like it's got some weeks in it left still to go anyway. Before we go, Dasha, have you seen the greatest story of the weekend? This is absolutely extraordinary what happened in Paris yesterday. While we're here all busy obsessing on global affairs and matters of war and peace and all the rest of it.
Yeah, I've had my head in the sand with political news, but...
But a bunch of guys break into the Louvre and basically pilfer the crown jewels out of there. It was a 7-minute daylight robbery, literally. And so far, at the time of recording this in the dead of night, Sunday night into Monday morning, they've got away with it so far. There was no violence. Nobody got hurt. they escaped on some scooters, and they've taken a tiara and a brooch and an emerald necklace and, like, thousands, literally thousands of diamonds on these various priceless, genuinely priceless jewels. It's the sort of thing that just captures the world's attention, isn't
When
it?
is the movie coming out?
Right, exactly. You can already imagine the big Netflix, whatever, trying to get
Who's
rights for this.
directing it? Who's starring? I want it. And how does this end? It's not over.
How
We're in the
does this
middle.
end? And while you and me are like desperately glued to this White House press conference tomorrow with the Australian Prime Minister, the rest of the world are going to be following
actually
this
gonna be
story, just
watching
to be
this.
clear.
I mean,
Yeah.
do we know the details of like how was it some like matrix like going over the wire, the the laser lights? Like, was it like a Mission Impossible, like Tom Cruise going through the lasers situation?
Not far off. They had a ladder on a vehicle. They cut through the glass with a disc cutter. They were in, legged it past the guards, set off the alarms, didn't care, grabbed the stuff, out in 7 minutes, onto the scooter, gone, done, like that.
Giving Tom Cruise a run for his money. Incredible.
You bet. Extraordinary stuff. All right. Well, we'll probably be talking about that again tomorrow morning, Dasha, if it's
Please,
moved.
let's.
So for now, let's leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for listening. That's all we got time for today. But as always, we've got loads more news and analysis in today's Playbook newsletter, which you can find at politico.com/playbook. And we will be back tomorrow. Have a great
Happy Monday.